that would start. That fight's happening. That fight has been announced. The press conference is happening. There's no question that's going to happen. Both are in the USADA pool. Both are under contract. I mean, everything is right there. I don't know that GSP is holding that up. I don't know that Bisping's holding that up. That could be just the company hasn't decided what date they want to put it on. So I don't know that I fully agree that that fight is being held up as much as some of the logistics just haven't come together. But I don't think there's any, I'm not sensing that there's smoke there of anything going wrong as much as, look, July is a little bit away. It's always been targeted for July. The venues aren't announced. The tickets aren't on sale. The posters aren't made. Hold on. I think maybe that fight got announced earlier than it needed to, but I don't know that once the date is finally given that it's going to be some short notice deal. I just think that they're not to that week yet.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. GSP came out and said that he thinks it's going to be at the end of the summer. So
what do you think that means? August, April, May, June, July? So they're talking about now another
August,
month
September.
later?
Yeah. Also,
well, if anyone would know, I'd say it's a participant in that fight. I wonder what in the hell's holding it up, which also makes me think, well, what do they having planned for fight week? Because that's a big week. They're going to have something big coming down the barrel. If you're going to hold GSP and Bisping out,
well,
what is it that you got that's trumping that?
Well, Dana said that he's not going to put Jones on a main event right off the bat, but he also came out and said Jones can come back and fight International Fight Week. And if he doesn't, he's gonna have DC and Manoa fight in Anaheim.
Okay, now I think you're wrong about that, unless there was another statement. I only saw one by Dana specifically about Jones and Fight Week, and Jones misses that by a matter of days, 6 days or something. He misses it, but only briefly. Now, I don't know that I agree because I was there when he was suspended, and his suspension is real close to like July 2nd. So, and Fight Week, I believe, is the 11th this year. It's after the 4th of July, the way the calendar matches up. So I think that if you looked closer, and this is off the top of my head without actually looking closer, but I think Jones is actually cleared by about 6 days. The problem is he can't get a license until he's up. They cannot give him a license and say, yeah, okay, we're going to have the hearing while you're suspended and your license gets activated on this day and this time. It doesn't work that way. The suspension has to clear, then you have to go into the hearing. So that would be a major mess to dump millions of dollars into something like that and not have him. So that could have been something more that Dana was alluding to. But I think if you actually looked at when he's cleared, I believe he is clear before any of those fights happen. That's my opinion.
Now, one of the things that we know about you is you're a fantastic wrestler.
Thanks, buddy.
You're a great fighter, world-class swimmer, best baseball player in the world. But what I did not know is how good you are at the center position in basketball.
Yes, basketball, but specifically the center position. If those guys were to work with me or if I was allowed to work with them, and that would be the only part where I could participate, I could show them how to get more tip-offs. That's true. That is true. There's things that you don't know about that position, and most people think that it's height because that's where it starts, like, you know, in the Pee-wees. Hey, whoever the tallest kid is going to play center. There's skills to that, and there's skills to knowing how to tip the ball and where it's going to go, and I don't see a lot of the fundamentals being implemented because a lot of the fundamentals are missed when you're a youth because it simply goes to whoever's taller. That is true. That is true that I do know that position. What?
I thought you were going to run with this thing.
That's all I got. What do you got? I see you got another note.
No, I've got.
Who gives you those notes? I like when you come in and you ask me questions. I think that it's a good way to steer this. I like when you have talking points. Is Bruce still providing those for you?
Yeah, he is. But a lot of this stuff is dated. So let's go through this. Alex Rodriguez buys a UFC franchise rights for Miami, Florida. Peculiar move, as it is known, the UFC gym franchise is the only business the UFC owns that they lose money on. Chael can now teach Alex the fundamentals of hitting a baseball and executing a double-A takedown all at the same location.
Well, now, wait a second. That's very interesting. Somebody bought it like a territorial rights to anything that's UFC, or what do you mean? Or he bought into a UFC gym?
It says he bought the UFC gym franchise rights for Miami, Florida.
Oh, he bought the gym rights. And I don't know that that's a true statement that he said that that's the one arm of the business that they have that is known to lose money. I've never heard that. I've been to a number of UFC gyms and they're packed. I don't even know if that part of it is true, and I don't recall seeing a UFC gym ever going under. In fact, here in Oregon, they just opened another one. So I don't know if that's actually correct.
All right, Nick Diaz released a video.
Hey, let's do this real fast. Did you read about, this happened yesterday, did you read about Aaron Hernandez? He was the football player for the, do I have that name right? He played for the Patriots?
You do.
Aaron Hernandez, he was just cleared a week ago. He went to trial.
Double murder.
For a double murder, and they cleared him, and his attorney came out and said, yeah, and we can also prove he didn't do the first one, and we're going through an appeals process, and we're going to get that done. It just looked like if there was ever a time that there was some kind of hope, and this guy did do the murders. I don't wish him well, but if there appeared to be some light at the end of the tunnel for him, it would have been what had happened in last week, and then he did a suicide. Did you read about that?
I did, and I immediately thought, okay, somebody killed him because of that. Because why would you hang yourself last week? Or, you've had plenty of time to hang yourself. Why would you hang yourself right after getting acquitted of something?
I'll tell you, ever want to go into conspiracies, go look into the prisons. It's very hard to find out whatever happened in there. But from the piece that I read, and that influenced me, and I'll accept it as truth, it was pretty clear that he had done it himself, because they said he even took steps to make sure that if they found him midway through, they couldn't get to him in time. He wanted to make sure he was successful at the act. But the timing did surprise me, in that he got his first piece of good news in a long, long time, just 6 days before.
Now, did you notice Arkansas had like a bunch of executions planned, and the reason they had them planned is they're out of this medicine that kills the people, and there was a big stink going on about that. Did you? Yeah.
So you're very close on that. So all states that have the death penalty have a whole bunch of executions plans. Largely, they never get carried out, and a guy just dies a natural life as he sits on death row. In Arkansas, they are trying to speed up a few executions, because one of the medicines that they use is only going to be in existence for another 30 days at the day that this broke, which I think is about 4 days ago. So it's inside of a month. So they're like, hey, if we want to do this and we're using lethal injection, we got to go. Now, the company that makes that medicine is like, hey, wait just a second. We don't want to be known as the killing company. You use multiple medicines to actually terminate somebody's life, and we're not going to put this on the shelf anymore if you're branding us as the one. So that was kind of the push and pull there. But yes, I did read that in Arkansas, and there's one guy in particular who they're trying to speed up, and that's why it made news.
Okay. All right, this is interesting because right next to your gym, my gym too, Gracie Baja, is a weed place. There's weed places all over Portland now. You can go get weed anywhere you want. Nick Diaz released a video of him smoking a joint before running a marathon. While his ability to inhale smoke and compete in cardio-based competition at an elite level is crazy, even more astonishing is the fact that he is publicly releasing videos of himself using a substance that against USADA code. How is it that fighters like Nate Diaz, who are 100% in the USADA testing pool, can be seen doing things like that, and USADA does not immediately flag them or test them?
Well, USADA would. So I don't know if that's factually correct. First off, if somebody is smoking something, do you know what it is? He could have a sponsorship with some company, and so he's going out and doing something and then claiming he's smoking said product for reasons that we wouldn't even understand, such as a sponsorship. It doesn't mean that that's actually what he's smoking. And yes, to the later point, if you did something like that, USADA would grab you instantly. Nobody would be immune from that pool. That would not go out there publicly. There would not be egg on their face, and they would handle it. So you don't always know what you're watching. And if a guy as smart as him is out doing something like that, likely, almost guaranteed, there's a little bit more to it. He's probably, if I'm just to speculate here, he's probably got a sponsorship with somebody. That's probably not what it is. I know guys that don't drink energy drinks that are sponsored by energy companies that dump out the can in the back and fill it up with a soft drink or a juice or a water and then go on the stage and drink that. So it's not, there's a lot of times it's a little bit more complicated than what the eye might see.
Yeah, and Brew, listen, man, I'm stupid enough. I don't need you to stupid me up anymore. You open it with the name Nick Diaz, and then it changes to Nate Diaz. So I have no idea who did what. Thanks, Brew. You made me look stupid.
I have no idea who did what either, but those guys are a lot smarter than they get credit for, and I'm very comfortable in telling you they did not go out on video and break a rule.
Okay.
But I want to guarantee you that they didn't say that they did it because somewhere they have a sponsorship or something along those lines, or they just want to be fun. But they're not out breaking rules. And to his question on USADA, yes, they would be busted dead to rights.
Okay. What do you make of the World Series of Fighting changing their name to the Professional Fight League?
So I'm behind on this. This news came out 24 hours ago, and I still just have not got around to it. It had a feel from people like you who I just speak to without reading the piece. It had a feel of like what they were doing with the IFL, except not with teams. Now, here's what you do need to take into consideration. World Series just sold 60% of their company, so the controlling share to the gentleman that owns the Washington Wizards. So he is going to come in with his own ideas of what a major league sporting company should look like. And it sounds like he's starting to implement these ideas.
I like where you're going with that.
He's also essentially put a hiatus on the World Series until 2018. I believe they're going to do 2 shows this year in 2017. I don't think either has taken place yet. Point is, they're really doing a restructuring internally. I think that we do need to show some excitement because of the intelligence and the experience that this new owner has. However, if there's anything we've learned, just because you're successful in one area doesn't mean the other. You'll remember when Vince McMahon, the king of wrestling, tried to get into football. Remember the XFL?
Well, and he said, they did a documentary on that, and he said, it would have worked if they would have gave me more time. If NBC would have gave me more time, I would have made this thing work.
Quite possibly. But, Vince also tried to get into bodybuilding and some other stuff that he's been interested in, and he found out that, hey, look, the one thing that I'm really great at is wrestling. So I think that there's an excitement there. The IFL, I believe, to your point, also could have worked with a little bit more time. Now, that was a budgetary issue. They went through too much money too fast. But if you'll remember when the IFL, here was the problem that the IFL had, and it was very fun. It was a fun, really light feel event. If you ever went to it, it was real family-oriented, if you will. You could take kids to it. I mean, the guy that started it, Gareth Sheamus, he did comic books. So he was into kid-type stuff. And the big problem with the IFL, they started out and they wanted to do teams. This team versus this team and have a tournament and then crown team champions. And the oversight there, which he learned later, he'd already lost a bunch of money, but he learned is, hey, wait a minute, why did I go out and create a team in Portland, called the Wolf Pack, and a team in New York called the Red Bulls? And why did I do that? There's a team in Portland. They're called Team Quest. There's a team in New York